Today is going to be a great day. I'm going to make over some of the items that I have found recently while out thrift shopping, and I'm going to take you along with me. Let's get started. I'm excited to show you what I'm going to do with each one of these pieces, and I think I even have an additional piece, so stay tuned all the way to the end so that you can see all these projects finished. Now, one thing that I like to do is I like to go back and forth between projects. I don't like to just work on one project at a time. My mind doesn't work that way, so I shift from one project to the next. So make sure that you stay tuned through the whole video to see the completed process of all of these projects. I'm also sharing some of my bloopers from making this video at the very end, so stay tuned. Let's work on this lamp first. This little lamp is only 9 or 10 inches tall. It's super short and it was filthy. So I took that microfiber cloth and you see me wiping down that whole cord, just really squeezing it between my fingers and getting all the grime off. For some reason, cords get really dirty on these lamps. I removed the plastic cover. It was really dry rotted, so I just cut away all the extra. We'll fix that in just a little bit. Now, this shade did not come with the lamp, but they were sitting close to each other at the thrift store, so I just grabbed the lampshade as well. I pulled all those beads off, but the shade itself was in really good shape, so all I'm going to do is paint it with milk paint. Milk paint comes in a dry powder, and you just mix up the amount that you need. That is one of the reasons I love this paint. I just used some white cardstock to cut out a new piece to go around that lamp just to cover up all the wires. After using that dowel rod to get it kind of in the shape of a circle, I grabbed my spray adhesive and I decided to go ahead and spray this. Now I stuffed a little bit of tissue down into where the socket is so that the glue would not go in there. Then I took it outside and I sprayed it so that that piece of paper would stick on there. The brass part of this lamp is not real brass. It's just kind of a spray-on finish. It doesn't have much weight to it. I could just tell it wasn't real brass. So I used a sanding pad and I roughed it up really good so that I could apply this gilding wax. I'm crazy over this gilding wax. I've used it on a lot of projects and it really does make the piece look vintage and old, and I just love the piece, and you're going to love what it does to that piece of paper. Just wait and see. If you enjoy watching thrift store makeovers like I'm doing here in this video, be sure to subscribe and like this video. I don't want you to miss any of the fun projects that we have in store for you. Going to notice that I switch back and forth between projects a lot, and this is one of the reasons. That milk paint has to sit and absorb the moisture, so while it sits for 10 or 15 minutes, I find something else to do, like putting the gilding wax on the lamp base. Now I'm just painting the shade with this milk paint, and it's wonderful. It's like a stain. It just soaks right in. This mirror is one of my favorite finds of all time. I paid $6.99 for it, but it was senior citizen discount day, so I got it for about $4 and something. I can't remember exactly. Plus, this mirror is from the vintage era that I love of the 1940s. But it needs a little bit of help. I'm going to keep the wood natural, and you'll see how I make it just look better. And then we're going to have to replace some of the paper that's behind that gorgeous beveled mirror, but this is easy, so just watch what I do. Sanding the piece down with that flexible sanding pad, I wiped off all the dust and then I got ready to just wax it. This was super easy to do. By the way, I love to cut a chip brush to apply the wax. It stiffens up the bristles and it just makes it go on so nice. So you just brush it on, you let it sit for a few minutes, and then you buff it off with a soft cloth. Let's clean this old mirror. I'm going to use 4/0 steel wool, and if you don't know what that is, that means that there on the steel wool bag, you're going to see zeros. You want the one that is 4 zeros. That's super, super fine. And this is a great way to clean any kind of glass or mirror. It just polishes it to a really nice shine and does not damage the glass at all. While the wax is drying on that mirror frame, let's sand off the rough spots on this lampshade. And then I painted it with a second coat of the milk paint. All right, let's work on this silver pot. Do you remember this silver pot from a couple of videos ago? I just really had a heck of a time trying to figure out what to do with it. I have not given up because this piece was only $3 and I wanted to salvage it in some way. I used my mallet to knock all the feet off, and then I realized that I'd left some spots where the feet had been welded. And I grabbed my sander and I just started sanding off those spots, and I was amazed how good it was starting to look with that sander. I just loved the finish that it was creating. So I sanded the entire thing with my sander. It got so messy. Then I started thinking of different ways that I could make this thing stand upright, and nothing was just really jiving with me. So I grabbed my hammer and my cloth and I started to beat the bottom of it, trying to make it as flat as possible. Now this took a while. I had a lot of trial and error of trying to get this thing to sit level. But after several minutes, I would say about 10 minutes, I finally got this thing to set level, and I was super happy with how it turned out. I grabbed some more gilding wax. I have a lot of these gilding waxes on hand. I have the silver, I have the zinc, I have the gold, and I grabbed all three and I just started experimenting with using the different shades of the metal look. This wax will harden in 30 days and it will be permanent. It's really an amazing look. What I did was I just started applying it in different areas, and then I took a paper towel and just kind of dabbed at it. I didn't wipe it off, I just dabbed it to take away any of the brush marks. And you can see I added splotches of gold and silver and the zinc. The zinc is the darker of the two silver colors. I just put it all over, and where I thought it needed more gold, I added, or more zinc, and I really love how this turned out. This was so fun. So I picked up that lamp, and sure enough, that paper was peeling off, so I had to grab my E6000 and secure that little seam there, and then I used a tiny clothespin to hold it closed so that it would dry. Here's this little bird cage I found while I was thrifting down in Virginia a couple of weeks ago, and I just loved it when I saw it, and I thought about using it as a cloche. I was going to cut the wires off the bottom and then just use this and set it over top of a plant. That's not going to work, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but I did want to lighten up the color, so I just kind of dry brushed it with the milk paint just to lighten up the color a little bit. I'm not going to use this silver bowl as a base for that picture, so let's just clean it up. This Earth Bright is a great cleaner. If ever you need to polish any kind of metal, this stuff works amazing on stainless steel, on silver, copper. I mean, I have used this stuff so much. In fact, I need to buy some more. This one's empty. Let's dress up this lampshade just a little bit. I grabbed a transfer that I have on hand from another project, and it's called Embroidered Lotus Transfers by Dixie Belle. I'll link it below. I love this one especially because it had all these little leaves and they were small, so I knew I could cut them out individually, and that would just make it easier to go around the circumference of this lampshade. So I cut each one out separately and I just laid one on at a time, and then I just used the rubbing tool that comes with it, and it just basically meshes into the fabric just perfectly. I really love how this turned out. Transfers are a lot of fun to use, and you can use them on all sorts of projects, like a lampshade, a fabric lampshade. Who would have ever thought? I've used them on furniture. I've used them on several different projects, but I just wanted to give this a try. I love the look of these little leaves dancing around this lampshade. Let me know down in the comments if you've ever used these transfers before on any of your projects. Tell me all about it. I would love to hear it. If you watch the chair upholstery series that I did here on my YouTube channel, then you're going to know that I love this braided jute trim. This is really one of my favorite trims to use. I have it on lots of projects in our home. I'll link the playlist to that chair upholstery project, and you can see how I used it on a chair. I'll take you step by step how to reupholster an antique chair. So of course I have lots of this left over, and I just use my hot glue gun and I go all the way around it. And I just hot glued it on to cover up the seams where I'd ripped off those beads. When you get to the end of it, you just want to be careful that you kind of close up the end with glue really well on the piece that you're working, plus have a little dot of glue on the end of the extra that you have left over so that that braid does not come undone before your next project. The last step was to seal the milk paint. I used the same wax and that same chip brush, and I just rubbed it all into the fabric all over. I did have to be careful around those transfers because the brush was kind of working off some of the transfers. One of them I rubbed a little bit too much, but that's okay. I'll just turn that part of the lampshade to the back, and besides, I really like a distressed look, and so there's that. The wax on the mirror frame had enough time to dry, so I used a little scrap piece of upholstery batting and I buffed off the wax to a nice shine. The backing on that old mirror needed to be replaced, so I used it as a template and I cut out a piece of thick cardboard. I have this great big piece of cardboard from a washing machine that we just got recently, and I like to keep these pieces of cardboard. They fold up flat. If you kind of take apart the seams, they fold up flat, and you can tuck them away very easily. They're really handy pieces of cardboard. You see here I'm using it even to protect the mirror surface on my workbench. So I cut that circle out. I had to do a little bit of extra cutting. You can see here that I didn't have it exactly fit. So I just shaved off, cut off just a little bit as I went along and made sure that it fit down snug into that groove. That way that mirror I knew would be held nice and firm. Now you see me using these glazing points to hold everything in there. You have to use a chisel and you just kind of press firm and press into the wood, and it'll hold all of those things that you have. The mirror, the backing, you know, the cardboard that I cut, all that good stuff. Now what I did was I went around all four sides and I pressed in the glazing points, and then I went back and basically divided the spaces in half and added more glazing points. I put a lot of glazing points on this because I don't want to lose that mirror. That mirror is a beveled mirror. It has the perfect chippy kind of finish where the finish has worn off of the mirror, and I just really want to preserve it. So I probably added more than I needed to, but better safe than sorry. Then you see here, I'm using Gorilla Tape because the glazing points have like a little sharp edge that can stick out if you're not careful. So this tape is going to protect my wall on the other side so that it won't scratch up the wall, and it'll just add extra security to keep everything intact. Now going around that curve of that oval was a little bit of a challenge, so I cut a little section, and then you see here that I'm cutting little marks so that I can bend that tape around in a circle. If you sew anything, you know what I mean by a dart. And the dart is made to form around different kind of curves of the body when you're sewing clothing. Well, the same thing here. I'm kind of cutting little darts that I can fold and manipulate around into a circle. And it really did hold everything nice and tight. And most importantly, it covered up those sharp points. For a hanger, I decided to use my favorite wire that I always use, and I just took a couple of screws and I pre-drilled the holes and I put them on the back, and then I wrapped that wire around with just enough extra to hang that mirror in the spot that I'm going to hang it in our bedroom. Don't stop watching yet, because I have big plans for the wall where this mirror is going to hang in our bedroom. Okay, here's this little wooden scoop that I bought recently while I was out thrifting, and this is a handmade little piece. I'm kind of thinking it was from the 80s when the craft shows were really popular, and probably some fella and maybe a woman in a workshop made lots and lots of these and sold them. And this one had a little candle holder inside, and I wasn't going to use it for a candle, but I really like this little scoop. I think I paid $1 for it. I'll link the video where I got this, because I got some really good stuff at this thrift store. Anyway, I used my TSP alternative cleaner and I cleaned it all the way around, and then I mixed up some more milk paint in the color Luckett's Green. You also see I'm starting a podcast. I'm hooked on these crime podcasts like Dateline. I don't know, am I crazy? Do you watch these, listen to these podcasts too? While that milk paint sets up, it needs about 15 minutes, I'm going to start working on this wind chime. This is not a thrift store find, but one of my daughters gave it to me, and I love wind chimes to be off in the distance. We have about an acre of property, and just to hear the sound of a wind chime off in the distance is just such a nice sound. So we're going to make it over. While I was thinking about what color to paint that wind chime, I decided to set it aside and start on my next project. This is just how my brain works. I like to move from one project to the next. It just kind of keeps things interesting. Now, my husband found this adorable little wired cart at an auction that he went to by himself. I can't remember when that was, but I'll link that video. He went on his own and found this. In fact, you see him coming home from work right there. He grabbed the dog and he took the dog inside. Now I used my sander, my power sander on this little cart, and I used the mouse sander because it is smaller than my orbital sander and I could really get in there. Make sure that if you sand any kind of metal that is rusted, that you wear a respirator, even if you are in a well-ventilated area. You want to be safe here. You don't want to risk breathing in any of that rust. I basically just gave it a good sanding. I used a wire brush on it, and then of course a good vacuuming. And then my husband came back out and he had a piece of metal that he could bend around to make another handle, because one of the handles was missing on this cart. I think that's why he got it for free, because the handle was missing, but that's never a problem for us. He took that wire and he kind of formed it the best that he could, and you can hardly wait till you see the end. I mean, you can't even tell the difference. He put it in the little holder. He added some kind of, I can't remember what he added to make it stay nice and thick in there. Maybe he used the JB weld. I'll have to ask him, but any guesses what he used to hold that in there? While he attached that piece of metal, however he did it, and I just don't remember how he did it, I went off to paint this little scoop. The milk paint had set up enough that I could do this. By the way, I know the paint looks really rough, but that's typical of any paint, especially milk paint. But by the time you get to the second coat, or sometimes the third coat, depending on how dark the piece is, I mean, this paint just works wonderfully, and it's a really authentic, old-fashioned way of painting things. It's one of my favorite paints to use. By the time I got that first coat of paint on, I kind of had the mindset of green for this wind chime. So I grabbed Dixie Belle's Spanish Moss. It's an earthy green, and I knew that it would just blend into the scenery. So I sanded everything down, all the wood pieces and even the metal pieces. I'm not going to paint the metal, but the wood I did want to paint. I'm not a fan of that orange tone. So I mixed up the paint really well, and then I just used an a small artist brush, and I gave the whole piece 2 coats. By the way, I wanted to mention that all the products that I'm talking about today in this video are going to be linked down below in the description. All right, so while the little scoop dries and the wind chimes dry, I decided it was time to go ahead and spray paint this little metal cart. And you see, again, I'm using my washing machine box as a little spray, like what do they call these? A little spray room. I don't know the technical term. But anyway, I was able to spray paint this adorable little cart in a hammered black. I'll get the name for it and I'll link it down below, but it's a hammered black finish. I like the hammered look, especially with this rust, because there was already some texture. I did not sand it smoothly. I basically just knocked off all of the rust. Now you'll also see I have wadded up a little piece of paper to help me with my finger spraying that spray paint. I know that there are handles that you can use on a spray can, and that really does help. I don't have one, so I just folded up a little piece of paper and used that to press down that button. Okay, you might think that I'm crazy, but the idea that I have for this little scoop is a good one. So stick around. I don't want you to miss the idea that I have. But in order to make it do the thing that I want it to do, I need a flat surface on the bottom. So I grabbed a vintage spatula that has no use in our workshop, and I just took off the metal plate because it happened to be the same size and I knew that it would fit inside of this scoop. So I broke off the handle and I smoothed it all down and just decided to use it for that purpose. So hang tight with me. In the meantime, I added a coat of wax over this milk paint to just seal everything. You also can see that I distressed it. I have a little distressing method. I use that knife and I like to distress that way. It gives a really authentic look. So I can't wait to show you what I want to use this little scoop for. The wind chime is going to hang outside, obviously, so I need to give it some extra protection. I grabbed Dixie Belle's Gator Hide, which is an exterior rated clear coat, and I painted all the wood surfaces, front and back, and I gave the whole thing 2 coats of the Gator Hide. That piece of metal that I cut to use for this scoop was not going to work, so I completely scrapped that idea. I grabbed my drill and I put a really large bit and I drilled a hole up underneath. Then I grabbed 2 wooden knobs and some E6000 and I glued them on the inside of this little scoop. And wait till you see what I'm going to do with it. Isn't that so cool? This is going to hold my phone when I'm out in my workshop. I have a place for the cord to go up inside and charge up my phone while I'm outside listening to podcasts or an audiobook. There's plenty of room for that cord, and my phone will be in a safe space. And the great thing is that this scoop actually echoes back the sound. It's kind of like a megaphone. I hung the wind chimes out in our cedar trees, and we can hear these wind chimes from our back porch, but you won't even be able to see the wind chime. And I just love hearing the sound. This is going to be such a pretty addition to our backyard. Back on our breezeway, this is the back door that we use the most. By the way, I have a video to show you how to make that sign there with our name on it. But that's where I put this little plant stand. It looks so cute. I transplanted some mouse ears hostas and I put them in terracotta pots and they show up so nice. I'm loving this little spot. This is just a nice little welcome to our guests. Most of our guests come through to the back door. I'm wondering, are you back door kind of people? Is that how people come to your home, or are you front door kind of people? Let me know down in the comments. I'm obsessed with little lamps. I have them all over my house, and this one is just a nice addition. It sits right on my kitchen counter in one of the little dark corners. I do have under counter lighting for all of our cabinets, but honestly, I like the glow of a warm light. This one fits just perfectly, and I've got it sitting on a timer. I've got it plugged into a timer. It comes on in the evenings. It goes off, you know, different times throughout the day, whatever the timing is. I can't remember how I have that set up, but it comes on and off. And at night, it's just a little light that pops on, and I don't have to think about turning it on and off, but it adds a nice little glow to our kitchen. This is our dining room, and this is where I have that silver pitcher for now. I made a little flower arrangement from some Hobby Lobby flowers. There's peonies and weeping willow branches, and anyway, you'll see it better. But I'm loving how the silver and the gold tones that I have in the silver pitcher are picking up the gold tones of my brass candlestick little collection there on the dining room table. I think that the flower arrangement is just kind of free and whimsical, and I think that it goes perfectly along with that pitcher. And I have that pitcher sitting on a silver platter that's not been polished, and I go through phases of I like it to be polished or not polished. I don't know. Do you like silver to be polished or unpolished? I love the tarnished look, and I also like the fresh polished look. And the great thing about silver or brass is that if you like it polished, you can have that, and if you like it the other way, in no time it'll be tarnished all over again. Here's this little bird cage. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. I have a couple of little ideas I want to show you here, but I want to know your opinion. What should I do with this? Should I hang it? Should I just put a little faux flower like this faux hydrangea? Should I put a real plant? You'll see here in a minute that I put a real plant in it. Should I hang it up? I don't know what I should do with this. It's just so cute. I had to have it. And now I'm just kind of stuck. I don't know what to do with it. So give me some of your ideas down in the comments. You're taking a little peek at our bedroom, and by the way, this room just got painted this past weekend, so stay tuned because I'm going to be doing a bedroom makeover reveal. But in the meantime, this is where this mirror is going to go. You see how beautiful the wood turned out. That beveled glass shined up perfectly with that 4/0 steel wool, and it kept all the speckly look of that vintage mirror. I just love how it looks. Now stay tuned because I have lots of projects that I have done for this bedroom, including washstands. You see it there in the background of the mirror. I have a really cool fireplace project there. You're getting a little peek of it there. And also a rocking chair that I reupholstered. So I will link some of these blog posts down below. And stay tuned here on my channel. I'll be giving a full bedroom makeover reveal soon. Till that, okay, try that one more time. Warm up. Warm up. Don't worry about the people that might be looking at you. It doesn't matter. You're having a great day. And we're going to do this one more time. Almost. Today is a great day because I'm going to, what am I going to do? Today is a great day because I'm going to take you along as I make over some of the items that I have found on recent thrift store. Today's going to be a great day. Today's going to be a great day because I'm going to take you along as I make over